Hey everyone, I'm Thomas, aka MrWartburg. Another week, another MrWartburg show. In the past, I've done some top 10 lists, like favorite cartoons, shows on Netflix, movies I want to see in 2016, and much in that vein, for episode 14, we're going to be talking about my top 10 video games. Now, I've been playing video games much of my life, probably closer to 20 years, give or take at this point. And the first game I actually remember getting was Christmas 1998. It was at my grandparents' house, before we did family Christmas with my mom and dad, and that was NASCAR 98. At the time, we didn't even have a PlayStation console yet, so I knew, alright, we're getting a PlayStation for Christmas. And since then, it's pretty much been multiple hours a week, forever. And I don't see that stopping anytime soon, so I figured, why not dive into my top 10 video games? So let's get to it. Now, number 10 was a toss-up between Halo 4 and what I actually ended up going with. Now, while I liked Halo 4's campaign a ton, the multiplayer left a lot to be desired, so it stayed out of my top 10. The one that did sneak in is one I actually just finished playing, so maybe that's why it's in the top 10, but it's definitely in the conversation anyway, and that would be Mass Effect 3. That's a game that had a lot of weight on its shoulders with its expectations, and yes, the ending didn't quite meet them all, but that doesn't take away from the 95% of the absolutely fucking amazing game that Mass Effect 3 is. You build on the great character interactions of the first two. I don't remember ever laughing at the dialogue in a video game as much as I did at Mass Effect 3. Seriously, you can watch my full play on Twitch. I'm laughing for quite a good stretch of just the shit talking that the characters have with each other, particularly the Citadel DLC, as well as, a few other interactions with Garrus, who my femshep did romance. And it was also successful in bringing multiplayer to the Mass Effect universe in the form of some 4-player survival co-op missions, much like Horde mode in Gears of War, which I have played a decent amount of, not a ton, like Lucas III, he's leveled up like 130 times. Jesus, dude, and I thought I didn't have a life. JK, you're awesome. Moving on to number 9 would be Pokemon Silver. Now, I grew up a Red kid, don't get me wrong, I love Red. But Silver took what I loved about that whole game and took it to a whole other level. The dual worlds, more Pokemon, you had the time function, which actually changed the Pokemon you can find in the world, and it didn't quite jump the shark, which I felt the other ones did, which is why I never really stayed with the Pokemon franchise, because it just got too much for me, plus I was getting more into the console games at the time. But Pokemon Silver is a game that I always find myself going back to. Now lately it's had to be on ROMs, because all the batteries died in my 2 cartridges for Gold and Silver, so to actually make the saves, to do the clock, so it would never actually keep my saves, which kind of sucks. But I was successful in getting around on my smartphone. Score 1 for smartphones. Number 8 would be GTA Vice City, which to me pretty much encapsulates what a great GTA game should be. Time over steady story with Ray Liotta, of all people. It's fucking phenomenal. The world was just crazy big to me. I was like maybe, 12-ish when it came out? I can't remember the exact year it ended up releasing, but it was just a ton of fun to play. I couldn't believe the sheer amount of stuff to do. I think that one was find the hidden, like all the 100 different collectibles and stuff you had to do. You can get the Rhino, and me and my sister would have who can stay with 5 stars the longest. I still remember going online on our shitty old internet connection to get all the codes for to get the cops off you, to spawn the Rhino, to get the Annihilator. I think that was the helicopter. Maybe. It was just so much fun to play. And I'm actually going to start a full play of that on Steam here soon, in conjunction with another game I want to talk about, which is on my list as well. Shifting gears a bit for number 7, and that would be Civ 5, the Complete Edition, which I got a couple years ago to partake in the TFT Extra live stream. I think that was 2014, which is the first one of theirs I was able to participate in. Holy shit, is that game fun. In the 2 years I've had it, more like 2.5 at this point, I've sunk in about 150 hours. Could be more, but I just never had the time to hey, now I'm going to spend 8 hours playing a game. Yay for full-time jobs. Kind of, but not really. It says a lot about the game that I've stayed up till 3 a.m. on a number of occasions just to play that game, either solo or with friends over Skype. And I foresee myself playing a lot more of it down the road and eventually getting Beyond Earth, which is its successor as well. Alright, number 6, another BioWare title, and this is Dragon Age Origins. I'm a sucker for any type of Tolkien fiction, especially if it's really well crafted, which BioWare nailed in Dragon Age Origins. The history with all the elves and their fall from grace. The Grey Wardens were fucking awesome. Not so much in the next 2, if you know what I'm saying. The world was fantastic, so open, lots of stuff to do. The way it all ended, while still being open to more possibilities, was fantastic. Definitely a game I have gone back to play quite a few times, which is why it's on my list. And rolling right into the top 5, we have Fallout 3 from Bethesda. Now, I have this on the list over Oblivion, which was the first Bethesda game I actually dove into once I got a 360. Fallout 3's mechanics were smoother. I liked the setting better. Again, while Oblivion, was the swords and sandal, the sword and shield kind of fiction world, I'm a sucker for the post-apocalypse, especially in DC of all places. Liam Neeson being your dad. The tightness of the story was a lot tighter, I think, at least in terms of pacing, than New Vegas, which was just, you could just stop whatever you're doing and go do whatever the fuck you want, which you can do in 3, but I like that it narratively progressed a little bit better, even though Fallout New Vegas's karma system was a lot more developed. But for all the improvements of New Vegas, it doesn't take away how amazing of a game Fallout 3 is. And coincidentally, it's also a game you can see a full play of here on this channel. Alright, back to BioWare. 3 BioWare titles in the top 10, 2 of which from the same franchise, and that would be Mass Effect 2. One of the definitive titles on the Xbox 360, for damn sure. It improved on everything that was good about Mass Effect 1, which was basically the characterization and the world. The gameplay sucked, the inventory system sucked, the UI sucked. It was very much kind of a prototype for a really good game. Which Mass Effect 3, fucking great game. Easily, like I said, it's pretty unanimously in a lot of people's top 10 for the Xbox 360 titles. Great score. The action plays a lot tighter. The inventory system is just stripped down to the absolute bare essentials, which works great for the game. Because there's a lot of side stuff to do, but the characterization is great. The suicide run, how everything kind of ties in together with your decision making actually affecting the end of the game. It's phenomenal. Cannot speak highly enough of this game. But there's only one game on the 360 that I think manages to beat it. And that would be something that preceded it by a couple years in Halo 3. Halo 3 was the original culmination of Master Chief's story on the Xbox 360, finishing the fight against the Covenant. The Arbiter returns, Sergeant Johnson goes out like a boss, Cortana comes back from her fate in Halo 2. The score is fucking phenomenal. That run on the Ark, I think when you're with the Elite Phantoms and you have the Hornet, it's just fantastic. Not to mention the preeminent multiplayer suite of the Xbox 360, maybe even yet on the Xbox One PS4 cycle too. It built on how awesome and how groundbreaking Halo 2 was, and just made it basically perfect. To the point I don't know of many games that can boast, we definitively have a better multiplayer system than Halo 3 all those years ago was able to put out. Put out. And my love of Halo and modern console gaming as a whole is only topped by 2 games that are so strong in the nostalgia. The first of which, number 2 on my list, is Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. Spyro 2 is the first Spyro game I actually ended up playing. I ended up later in life going on to play the original Spyro, but Spyro 2 was fucking fantastic. The various different levels, the orb collection, the talismans, the secret orbs you can find in the world by cracking the walls, and all these different kind of mechanics and his various different power-ups. It was just awesome. And it was one of those first games where I remember playing it with my sister, who was older than me by a couple of years, and we were the only 2 of the 4 of us able to kind of cognitively play games competitively against each other, even though it was just a single player. We would have 100% battles, who can get the most orbs and get as far in the game in such and such a time frame. And I remember once accidentally deleting her save when she was at 95 and I was at 90. I didn't actually tell her it was on purpose, so keep that between us. And it is definitely a game that is only topped by how much fucking fun the number 1 game on my list is, and that would be Crash Bandicoot Warped. If Sony made a remake of this game, or a sequel to this game, or a remake of Crash 1, 2, and 3, which are, I think, maybe the definitive PlayStation games of all time, alongside Spyro, and maybe a couple others, I would buy a PS4 in a heartbeat, take my $400 plus the game, see, I'm out the door. Minute even buy another PS4 game in my life, doesn't matter, I'm gonna play me some Crash. Much like Spyro 2, the various world design, all his powers, especially the Wampa Bazooka, and getting all the sapphires and the gold sapphires and the gems and the hidden worlds, and knocking down the alien sign in the motorcycle runs to get to Coco's secret world, fucking phenomenal. A game that I have played more hours than I care to admit to get to that 105, 106%-ish, whatever it is, you can actually complete everything in the game. And coincidentally is another game I did a full play of, which you can see here on the channel as well. So those are my top 10 video games of all time. Obviously I haven't played every game, but I've been gaming for about 20 years, and of the ones I can remember when I typed up this list, those are the ones I put in my top 10. So let me know if there's something I should maybe look into adding in there, what your list is. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, like the video if you're in the mood. Subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest episodes, including this weekly MrWartburg show. And if you got a topic for me, shoot it to me at MrWartburg on Twitter, and follow twitch.tv/MrWartburg when I go live for my video game full plays or random one-off videos. and I'll see you next week.